evidence warehouse, a place that a lot of people in the District of Columbia are probably very unfamiliar with, but a very important building in crime fighting. We are here to do a couple of things. One, we want to give an update on the status of the Metropolitan Police Department Evidence Warehouse. We want to announce a new procurement process for the warehouse and for the new warehouse. First of all, for the past couple of months, Chief Cathy Lanier has kept me up to speed on what can only be described as serious problems in the Metropolitan Police Department Evidence Warehouse. She's got the specifics, but I think without any question, we have not managed and cared for evidence as it comes into the Metropolitan Police Department as the residents of this great city would have expected. This is an important warehouse because we bring evidence here and it's stored, and obviously it's used in the prosecution of crimes. The second major factor is that a lot of this evidence that is kept is extremely valuable in many ways, just by virtue of the expense and the volume of items that are here. We want to be able to make sure that as we go forward in the District of Columbia that we keep the evidence in a first-rate condition. And so what we are announcing is a new and innovative procurement process will begin to build a new evidence warehouse. The administration has identified a site on the grounds of the St. Elizabeth campus. Chief Technology Officer Vivek Kundra, who is here with me, and Chief Procurement Officer David Reagan have come together to create a web-based procurement mechanism that they will describe, which will allow the expert to tell what is the best solution for storing evidence securely, and then they will use the World Wide Web to help track how the evidence is kept. The new online process will allow the District of Columbia to condense the procurement process to about 4 to 6 months. This will allow us to move forward faster, get the new building built within 18 months. And so what we'll do, I'll have the chief, the procurement officer, and the technology officer talk about the building, and then we'll introduce our new OPM and Contract Appeals Board leadership, and then we'll take questions from the media. So our Chief of Police, Cathy Lanier. Chief?
First and foremost, I want to say that when I first came in January, one of the first things I did obviously was take a look at everything across the board in the department, from facilities to personnel to processes, command staff, and as I moved through that process, one of the first things that I ordered as I toured around the city and looked at the different facilities that we occupy was some audits to look at all of those things that are the most valuable things in the Metropolitan Police Department. So we conducted an audit of the Evidence and Control Warehouse that was completed in the summer, the end of the summer. And as a result of that audit, we realized that there are some significant issues that needed to be addressed immediately in the Evidence Control Warehouse. I will also say that, you know, as we move through this first year, we've dealt with a lot of significant facility issues. There's nothing more frustrating to me as the Chief of Police or for any director than to walk into a facility where you have employees working and see your employees working in conditions that you yourself would not want to work in. And that matters because we have employees that work very hard and do very important jobs, and they deserve to be in facilities that are up to speed, have the proper heating and air conditioning and ventilation and all those other things that we all deserve. So once we did this initial audit, we worked with OPM and OCTO, and Vivek will talk a little bit more about that, and contracting and procurement, and we said, okay, there's 3 things that I need to do immediately, and then there's this long-term plan. So for me, once this initial audit was done, the 3 immediate actions that I identified was, first and foremost, improve the conditions of this facility that we're in right now, so that it provides a safe working conditions for my employees. So that is already underway. We've gotten a lot of support from OPM, and I appreciate all the help they've given me on this so far. The second thing is there were some very high-risk items that were stored here that there was no need for them to be stored here. So I immediately wanted to remove those high-risk items to a proper facility, and that move has now taken place. And some of those items have been moved to a undisclosed location off-site from here. And the last thing for me was to move as rapidly as possible and provide the resources needed to purge old items. Through the years, we have allowed staffing to deteriorate in a lot of our support branches, and that lack of staffing has allowed a lot of items that could have been purged to remain, and that just overcrowds a warehouse that's already bursting at the seams. So the rapid purging of those old items and reducing that backlog is critical. Why that's so important and why that means so much is we are moving towards a state-of-the-art consolidated laboratory that will be online in just a short time, blink of an eye reality. And we can't do that while we still have an evidence control process. While it is very sound and the evidence is processed and kept very secured and the process is got the integrity it needs, it is a paper-based system. So we're moving to a state-of-the-art lab facility. We need a state-of-the-art evidence control warehouse, because that is the intake of where all evidence that comes into our system that will eventually make its way to that lab will be. So as we started our initial transition, we are upgrading software for better and more efficient tracking of our evidence that's in our inventory, so we can do things a little faster with a lot less people. And we are looking at all of the state-of-the-art hardware, software systems, and all those things that will allow us to better store, inventory, retrieve, and track all of our property and evidence. So again, I want to stress that there is not any problems with the process that we have, other than it is antiquated and it is out of date, and it takes a lot of people to do. As we move into our new facility, we will have high-speed, state-of-the-art technology that will allow me to do a lot more work with a lot less people, and in a facility that Washington, D.C. deserves to have, and that is a state-of-the-art facility. So I want to turn over now. I also want to say, before I step back, the support from my partners behind me has been tremendous, but also from the Police Foundation. Reached out to the Police Foundation very early on in this process to look for subject matter experts to help me with a lot of this, and they have been overwhelming in their support. So I could not have done this without everyone that I've mentioned so far. So I will now turn this back over to the mayor so you can hear about the other parts of this process.